I am Ashley Mataisi. I am the Director of Outreach with 10 Capital. 10 Capital is a funding as a service program, and I am joined today by co-founder and CEO of Knightley, Graham Gintz. Graham, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, of course, Ashley. I'm excited to be here, and we're going to have some fun talking about data rooms.
Awesome. Well, this presentation is going to be as informative and interactive as possible. So if anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat box or use the raise your hand function, and we'll be happy to get those answered for you. So with that, Graham, I will let you take it away.
Well, sounds good. All right. And yes, if people have questions, questions are great. I can talk about data rooms all day, but I definitely prefer to answer questions.
Okay.
All right. So before I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about myself. And so as Ashley mentioned, my name is Graham Gintz, and I am the co-founder of Knightley. And I'm also a former associate at Techstars. And Knightley is actually my third company as a founder. My first, we had a successful exit. The second was a complete and utter dumpster fire disaster. And the third's off to a good start. And pretty much we just kept seeing the same problem of, especially as a first-time founder, you're always kind of trying to figure out, am I supposed to know what I don't know? And so that's kind of what was the real inspiration for us as a company, was trying to provide the tools and insights that we had as people that had had some success and had learned this kind of by doing, and sharing it with the next generation. And then once we kind of saw that on the founder side, we decided we were also going to do it on the investor side as well, because there were so many people that wanted to learn how to be angel investors, that kind of that same thing. It's how am I supposed to know what I don't know? And it's really, really easy to feel really silly and stupid in a lot of these different ways and processes. And so all of that comes down to kind of one central idea, that the data room is the brain of your process and organization, and that it is really important to be organized. And we found that in the venture capital landscape, being organized a certain way led to more efficient results. And ultimately, that was the inspiration for Knightley. So with that, let's dive in. So here's kind of the agenda. We're going to keep it really, really simple. So please ask questions. But why does this matter? What is a data room, and where do I start? So why does a data room matter? Well, your data room might actually be more important than your pitch deck. And that seems really hard to believe, because we hear all of the time in VC Twitter and all these different places on having to nail your pitch deck, and it has to be beautiful and perfect and kind of all these things. And I'm not trying to say that your pitch deck isn't important, but your data room is going to spend way more time with investors than you or your pitch deck will. And so by making sure that it's well organized, it has the right content, the right information, that's where investors are going to use that information that's in that data room to convince one another that they should go ahead and say yes and write you that check that you've asked for. And so there's two kind of purposes here, the difference between a pitch deck and a data room. Your pitch deck is ultimately, like I said, super important, but it's your first impression, and that only gets you so far. The purpose of your data room is to enhance that trust and validate all of the things that you mentioned in your pitch. So if you said that there was a market cap of so-and-so, and this was the penetration strategy, and you had these customers, like, investors just have to take you at your word. The data room is where they see those contracts, they read those reports, they actually experience all of the things that you claimed in that really elegant, beautiful pitch. And here's kind of the numbers. An investor group is going to spend somewhere between 40 and 60 hours going through the documents and the materials that you've outlined in your data room. Your pitch deck is only your first 5 to 10 minutes of a meeting. And kind of once it's spent forever. And so don't just think about your data room in the same way that you think about your pitch deck, and it's like, oh, this is this thing that I have to complete to actually go raise money. Your data room should be thought of as an asset that is constantly building upon itself. It's getting stronger, it's getting more validation, and it is the proof of the valuation that you're asking for. And it lies all of the work and all the behind the scenes energy that goes into your company. And it is the it is the homework that you're turning in. I mean, we own the work to build your company. Organize it in a way so that an investor can experience all of that hard work. So the other most important thing is that if you want to sell your business, you will need this. And we estimate that if founders spent about 30 minutes a week, they could have really good data room hygiene. Otherwise, what happens is you're going to have to pay attorneys to do this, probably somewhere between $300 and $500 an hour. And a lot of times, if you have to sell your company, it's not on the best of terms. And so what you don't want is you don't want to create a circumstance where you are basically having to give a huge portion of your exit, if there is, like in terms of money, to these lawyers. And it could cost you $100,000 for them to do all this work for you. If you have all your ducks in a row and you're really elegantly organized, you get more control. You'll have less urgency. You'll have better options if things go poorly. And if things go positively, you have even better options. So let's dive into what is a data room. So at one point in time, this used to be a data room. It used to be a physical room that every company had, that had every piece of paper and every important document that had been signed by the administrators of the company, all in one place. And people used to fly around the world, and there used to be armed security guards protecting them. And it used to be this really, really, really big deal. Now I have founders who send me this. And this doesn't really impose that trust and validation of that pitch, especially if you're asking for millions of dollars in capital. And it's not to say that there aren't people that haven't raised money with just these three things, but it's not the right kind of energy to be sending to investors. And the more work you do in these spaces, just the more validation and credibility you'll be having. So if you're a first-time founder especially, this is an easier way for you to be looking better, stronger, faster as an entrepreneur. That can help you kind of warrant more trust and more of that validity that investors are looking for them to feel comfortable being your business partner. Which is what fundraising is it's people are giving you money to invest in the growth of your business. So where do I start? Build, buy, or outsource is kind of the way that I like to think about this. And so as mentioned, I am the CEO of Knightley, so I definitely have bias for which of these options that I would recommend. But it is possible to do this with free tools like Google Drive or Dropbox. And I think that they are worth mentioning. And I can kind of go through and say, like, yes, they are free. People have raised money using them, but they're not the most efficient. Because A, you start with nothing. And so you have to know what goes in there at the very beginning for it to have the end result that is what you desire. B, it lacks scalability. So if you are raising $1 million, you're probably going to talk to 50 to 100 different investor groups. And depending on how those initial meetings go, they're all going to want to see your data room. So you are cloning 30 to 50 different rooms that all have different documents based on different homeworks that those investor groups have given you. And that's a lot of extra founder work that in the middle of a fundraising process, you definitely aren't going to want to deal with and aren't going to want to manage. And so I would say that if in your core, you only do things for free, those are your two best options, but you will be sacrificing some time and energy if things are going well in your fundraise. With someone like Knightley, we charge $150 a year. We provide templates to what the data room should actually look like, and we have additional API integrated tools that kind of help you with your fundraising narrative and story. And we're also working on helping to facilitate introductions. And most importantly, we're built for scaling startups. You can keep everything in one centralized place, and that can be kind of your ground zero to where your company runs on top of. And you know it's going to get organized, and all of that information builds upon itself. Lastly, some of the law firms have tools like this. Like I said, any lawyer will be happy to do this for you. They charge lawyer rates, $300 to $500 an hour. They can do all of this work for you. Their tools are often clunky, but they work. So that is kind of the luxury option of just having someone else do this. I would say that 99% of us fall into the build or buy kind of category, and my preference is to go with buying Knightley. So here I have an example of what a pre-seed and a seed stage data room would look like. And you'll notice that they're kind of the same. And that's on purpose. The earlier you start investing into your data room and the organizational structure here, the stronger it will become and the less work that it becomes to maintain it. So putting together a strategy on how you're going to organize and think through your data room can be really important. And it's not a waste of effort, because you're just creating debt every single week that you don't do this. You have more documents that are in the wrong place. And ultimately, whether you decide that you need to go raise money or you want to go exit your business, you're going to have to do all this work, and that debt will just keep piling up. And so kind of the high level things that I think through is having a separate kind of category just for your fundraising materials, things like your pitch deck. I like to use a video where I kind of tell our story. It's a little bit more concise and a little bit more organic. Having really good notes and kind of opinions on competition and your market. If you have case studies and testimonials from customers, and then managing your KPIs. So not things that necessarily need to be in your slide deck, but are right there for when investors kind of want to look at that second, third tier of information to make sure that the whole story is complete and that they're on board. You want to have really well organized KPIs. And so before I kind of dive into my data room, I'm going to show you actually what I use to do fundraising for our company. I wanted to pause and see if there are any questions.
Yeah, we have a question here. What is the minimum that should be in the data room?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question. I also think it's the wrong way to be thinking about it. I think, like I said, I think the data rooms are an asset if you know how to utilize it. And so if you have this really well organized mountain of information that's really easy to comb through and helps tell the whole narrative and the whole story of your business, it's going to just give those investors that much more confidence. So they probably won't go through all of it. They're going to go pick and choose the things that are most important to them. And you really have no idea of what they care about. So like if they're, given their background, if they're a product person, they may want to go look into any of the like product kind of stuff and the product roadmap and those kind of things. If they're more on the compliance or the finance or the legal side, like maybe your financials and how you're modeling the company and how you're thinking through all of those different kind of points related to a financial model, that's going to be really important. If it's based on the execution and the sales side, they're going to want to read through your sales contracts. They're going to want to see who you've signed agreements. What do those agreements say? So I don't like to think of there being a minimum. Now, we're all early stage startups. We always can be doing more, and we can be having kind of bigger, greater, grander kind of things that we've accomplished. I think the data room is a really great place for you to own what you've been able to execute on so far and just showcase that you are capable of managing an organization that is thinking about these things and has a process and a structure in place, so that when you take that capital to hire more people, they know that you're going to instill those same values and beliefs or company-wide, and that 10 years from now, it's not going to be hard for me to believe that this is potentially $1 billion opportunity, because on day 15, you have all of this structure and organization that was designed for that outcome. And so it's just another step for you to look better amongst your peers who are also starting up, who are also probably not doing these things and probably under-organized. So that's kind of how I think about it. And I can show, when I go show here in my data room, I will show you what is in my minimum. Let me find it real quick. So that you can kind of see exactly how I share it.
Great, yeah, that's a good time to dive into that.
So this is our data room in Knightley, and as you can see, the main things that I send to someone after like a first meeting are just these fundraising documents. So I like to send kind of our one-page summary. I'll send that shareable deck, our pitch video, competition and market, I think are really important. And everybody talks a lot about your market size and all those kind of things. I think what's actually most important is for you to take it a step deeper and think through your competitors in terms of what they do really well and what they're missing. And so I like to run like a SWOT analysis on each one of my competitors. And I've actually written like a half page to a page summary on the things that I think that they do really, really, really well, and the things that I think that they're missing, and where our opportunity is to outpace some of those companies in the next 2 years. And so I think what a lot of founders do early on is they will kind of just besmirch and kind of look down upon their competitors. Like, if you're a logistics company and you don't address Amazon being in your space, like as an investor, that's a huge red flag. And so like, but if you can walk through and explain to me that like, if Amazon were to try to do what you're trying to do, it would cost them $39 million a year to spin it up. And that, so for these reasons, they don't have the time and energy to do this, but that actually makes you a really great acquisition target in like 18 to 36 months. Because like, if you can get to this size and this scale, they historically have shown that they'd rather buy than build. And like now, as I'm telling this story to an investor, it's really compelling, because it's like, oh, not only does this person understand this market, how it's huge, but they also understand how the biggest player in that market thinks about different things. And so I have a lot of trust, and like I've now earned more trust in that moment. Like trust is going to be a big word I use over and over and over here, because that person now sees the real opportunity and where the trends are flowing. So I would say spend a lot of time and energy thinking through how you present competition and market, because what investors are looking for in your data room is the obvious red flags that like you're going to commit fraud and do terrible things, so they know not to invest in you. But they're also a lot of times looking for that thing that puts you over the edge and makes you from a, I think so to a hell yes. Definitely want to write this check. This founder there's so many things here that this founder has done that like they didn't even have the time to tell me in our 30-minute meeting. And it's clear that like I'm going to learn from this person if I want to learn about this industry. And maybe the business today isn't what is the thing that creates $1 billion, but like this person is leading an organization that's going to be $1 billion organization. And so I think competition and market is super critical. Case studies and testimonials, they get a lot of press and publicity, and that's great. For us, like I actually have like a video testimonial. Like I did a podcast with one of our customers, and I have like a 2-minute soundbite of him going off telling about like why everybody needs to use our product. And that's what I send investors, so they can experience that kind of like 1-minute video of him telling them why he uses our product. That is way more valuable than any beautiful 1-page flyer that my marketing team could put together. Like if you can just keep and capture those kind of things, like the data room is a really great place to just own those assets that don't go bad. Like no one will ever not want to hear from a customer talking about how great, like that doesn't expire. Your investor updates, those are super key. So we have a product where we actually go and I send my investor updates every 2 weeks. And we have this really nice template that is designed to kind of pull all the information out that's super mobile friendly. And then I just schedule these. So I like write it out whenever I have free time, and then it schedules for 8 a.m. on Tuesdays every 2 weeks. So my investors now believe that I am this way more put together, better scheduled, maintained person than I probably am, because I have a tool that kind of does that for me. And that's part of what fundraising is some of this gamesmanship of just looking better and stronger than you actually are. And we use the data room as a way to like vet how real that strength is. I can go through all of these kind of categories. I think the easiest way to think about it is just you want to have a clear organization and structure that through folders and subfolders. So having something that an investor can come in here that looks really well organized and is clean. And you'll see like I have a lot of zeros. There's things that we're still working on. We're still early. But when I send this to an investor, this is this is what they see, is they come and they see this really clean data room where they can just kind of pop in here and just start seeing assets. And it's really organized, and they can kind of answer all the questions that they want answered in the order that they want them answered. We're not trying to guess, because every investor has their own different process and their different way and their different style. For us, it's your fundraising stuff, the company stuff, financials, IP, our cap table. I mean, those are the normal things that people would want to see. And so that's how I think about it. Kind of with that, any more questions, thoughts?
Yeah, you mentioned updates. How often should someone be sending the investors updates? You said 2 weeks. What's the norm?
I think that once a month at minimum. I would say once a month is the minimum. And we try to design our tool so that it gives you the categories, but it still gets to be your own voice and your own tone, and you can manage how you send those out. And then we let you know kind of who's reading them and whatnot. I think once a month is at minimum, because you want to stay fresh in people's mind, and you probably have enough stuff to update and report. But it's a great way for you to ask for help in certain areas. Like at least once a month, I know I reach out to our kind of group of investors and say, hey, does anyone know someone in this space? Or hey, if someone has some time on Tuesday, I'm looking to get some feedback on this new like product we designed in Figma. Like, can anyone hop on and be and like give us like some user feedback? And so I do it every 2 weeks, because we have pretty engaged investors, and I have tools that make it really easy for me to do that every 2 weeks. I think definitely at least once a month.
Okay, and we did have a question, another one come through. Adam says, you may talk about this later, but can you control which investors have access to which files in the data room? Are there different levels of access? Because it would be great to show less to investors after a first meeting than when they're in due diligence.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great question, Adam, and I should have brought that up. So that's what these levers are. So I start when I meet with somebody, I only give them access to my early stage fundraising docs, because that trust isn't there yet on my side. I don't want to just because I talked to you for 20 minutes doesn't mean I'm going to give you access to all of my customers, all my financials and everything. As the relationship grows, I will expand and open up more access and kind of give people more insight into those different layers. And yes, that's what these toggles are here, is that I can literally kind of go in here, and if I wanted to give Jay access to this list, I just swipe, and then my computer needs to load. I'll try that again. So yeah, so I could just come over here and swipe and so on. So yes, to answer your question, yes, you will always have control of how much access you have. And if for some reason the relationship goes stale or stagnant, you can revoke access at any time as well.
I guess going specifically through Knightley, does an investor have to pay if you send them your data room through Knightley?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the founder, that is included in what the founder is buying. And so they can send it to as many people as they would like, and all that we'll ask from the investors is them just to confirm their name and their email address. And then it's one click, and then it automatically creates the right profile for them. So they just view that data room as simply as Google Drive or Dropbox. But it's better organized, cleaner, has search, and so on.
Okay. And we have a follow-on question from Adam. How secure is the information we upload? Who can see it, and how much have you invested in cybersecurity?
Yeah, so my co-founder is a pretty brilliant technologist. He was on the team at a company called Web Filings, which was ultimately acquired by Workiva. And really what they did is they were the pipeline between publicly traded companies and the SEC. And so that was a different kind of data room. And we know that we're in the trust business. And so we've put a lot of protections into who can see what. We're leveraged on top of S3 buckets in AWS. But yeah, it is a lot of steps into security. We're working on enhancing more things like two-factor from the management side of the actual accounts, but the data room is as secure as any Dropbox or Google Drive would be.
And do you host the videos, or does YouTube or some other platform?
So we host everything because we just found that if it was on YouTube, we didn't want it being recommended and going to someplace else. So the way to think about Knightley is it's kind of, you are a room and you control everything in the room. And so we give people some recommendations on kind of what's the right length of videos and things of whatnot, but storage space is pretty affordable these days, like I said, in AWS. And so, yeah, we support all that.
Okay. And we're getting towards the end of our session. So if anyone has any other questions, please pop them into the chat box. Graham, could you just tell us quickly what are the steps of signing up with Knightley to start a due diligence box?
Yeah, if you are a founder, we're giving everybody that's listening 2 months as a free trial. You just go to knightley.co and use the code TRY60 at signup.
Cool.
If you are an investor, we have some more investor tools that we'd love to show you as well. And I can share my Calendly link with you, Ashley, if you want to send out if there's people that are to the subscriber or to people watching.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to kind of do a 30-minute walkthrough with any of the investors so they can see some of the investor tools that we have. And same thing, we'd give them 2 months free to try and experience all the different things. And then from there, it's just, we hope to help you in your goals of staying organized, raising money, and growing your business.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for this information. It looks like that is all of the questions that we had. I will be happy to share this video and Graham's Calendly link to set up any potential calls. Graham, thank you so much for this information. This was really great. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Ashley.
Of course. Well, thank you to everybody joining, and everyone stay safe out there.